See, he signed that letter to the Speaker. He is also the co-chair of the Bipartisan Problem Solvers Caucus and did meet with President Trump last week at the White House. Congressman, very quickly on the State of the Union, the president says he will not give it Tuesday, not in the House, not anywhere. Is there a winner here in the battle between the president and the Speaker on that matter?
Well, I think there's a clear recognition that we've got to get the government back open before you give a speech on the State of the Union. And if he were to actually have to give a speech on the State of the Union now, we'd hear that actually, because of this shutdown, the State of the Union is hurting. Right? We know from yesterday, I think the president's head of his economic advisor said that if this shutdown continues, we're going to have zero economic growth this quarter. Right? So it's affecting our economy, it's affecting jobs, it's affecting safety. So I think we all should be focusing on how do we get this government back, get our government back open, and then we can talk about other issues facing the country.
So you signed this letter that I have right here. 30 Democrats did to Nancy Pelosi saying, promise the president that if we reopen government, you'll get a vote on border security. Isn't that basically a proposal, the same type of proposal that Lindsey Graham floated that the president himself said he would not accept?
I think it's similar to what Lindsey said, but it's actually what we've been saying over here, which is open the government first, right? Because you can't negotiate about anything while the government's closed, while it's affecting our safety and security and our economy. Then, after we reopen the government, let's get together at the table and talk about border security, which obviously is essential, but also immigration reform and what we could do to fix our immigration situation, right? But you got to come to the table, and we've got to get the government open. And what I've been saying now for weeks, and so many of us have been saying, is we've got to actually talk to each other. But you can't talk while the government's shut down, because there's no way you're going to have actually a productive conversation, and it's not how our government should operate.
So, again, I think the gist of that letter is something the president has already rejected. He says he will not reopen government without promise for actual money for a border wall.
As you know well, the bar moves every single day, right? So it's hard to actually know what would be accepted from the administration on this. I'm hoping what ultimately is accepted is we're going to reopen the government, and then let's have this serious conversation about how to make sure our borders are tough and secure, right, to keep out terrorists and gang members and all the things we need to do to make sure our border is secure, but also actually address immigration reform.
You're being generous by saying the position changes every day. Sometimes it changes multiple times in one day. But my specific question to you is, would you promise the president some border barrier funding if he reopened the government? Not just a vote on it. Would you promise him, you know what, I will vote for new barrier funding if you reopen government?
Well, I think there are a lot of options on the table for what tough borders are, and there's a lot of technology, and we've met with a lot of experts, what they believe is actually what's needed to keep our borders tough. So I'm also not going to say what I'd agree to until we actually have that conversation, because let's see what it looks like, and I think it's got to include all options and address all options and include immigration fixes, right? So what my position is let's actually come to the table. That's why I went to the White House last week to talk, because I think the only way that you get a way forward is talking in life and in business. Yeah.
But you're not willing to promise any new barrier funding if the president agrees to reopen the government?
What I'm willing to commit to is to have the actual debate and conversation that we're supposed to have as lawmakers about what the right security is, to make sure we spend every nickel smartly for the American people and to make sure it does its job. And again, I think we have a lot of experts who've met with us who told us this is actually what will keep our borders tough and secure. And to me, that should be the answer.
What's the Democratic plan for border security?
Well, we've a lot of us have been meeting, and there's a lot. We've just last year passed actually a plan that we tried to get to the House floor, but our caucus got behind, that said we need to have tough borders, we need to address immigration reform, we need to make sure that our dreamers are able to stay here and have a path forward. To me, and we've been having lots of conversations about what that would look like and will look like once we get the government reopened. There's no actual one magic bullet. I think the whole answer here is we've got to find what's going to work for both sides. And as you know, I believe you have to have that bipartisan conversation, but you can't do it in these circumstances.
Let me look at the reverse of what we've been talking about. You won't commit to voting for new money for a border barrier. Will you promise now to some progressives who never want it that you would never vote for new money for a border barrier?
I would say that I will. So that's a lot of knots there.
I know.
I'll tell you what I'm for.
Have you closed the door on new money for a border barrier?
I will not close the door to more resources for tougher border security, right? And again, I think there's a lot of options on the table of what that can mean.
I hear you, but you are dancing around. You are dancing around.
Well, because I don't believe you should negotiate any of this on television. I think you talk about this sitting with experts, with people who tell you, here's actually what we need. I've met with experts recently to talk about, of course, more drones and more sensors, cost-effective ways to do it. If there are places where we need other options, other physical options, then if the experts come back and say that, obviously we'll consider that. But the point is, every option has to be on the table, but you don't negotiate when the government's shut down, and you don't do this deal while the government's shut down. You reopen it, and then you have that conversation. And you see that a lot of my colleagues are saying the same thing. Let's sit down and talk. And I'd say that to all leaders, like, please come to the table so we can actually move forward here.
Two final questions. One, do you think Nancy Pelosi is willing to sit down and talk? Has she talked as much as you would like?
I've talked to her about it. She's certainly willing to come to the table.
Second question, Michael Cohen has said he does not want to come and testify before on February 7th at this point because he fears for his family. Now, this is not your committee. It's not your immediate business, but you are in the House. Do you feel that the Democrats on the Oversight Committee or other committees should issue a subpoena to compel him to testify?
I think we have an oversight responsibility, and we have to make sure that people actually show up. So if the committee subpoenas him, he should show up. And obviously, we want to make sure that we get the answers that we need to understand what's going on here, and there's a lot of questions.
Congressman Josh Gottheimer of the state of New Jersey, thanks so much for being with us.
Good to see you. The great state of Jersey.
I just say New Jersey.
Allison loves it.
I just say New Jersey. The amazing thing is Allison let me weasel into a discussion with anyone from New Jersey because she demands a complete monopoly.
Well, I mean, generally, yes, but, you know, we have a Jersey. You're sort of an honorary Jersey guy.
I don't want that. I don't want that honor.
You do want that. It's a great thing.
He does want it. He doesn't know he wants it.